USA Ultimate is proud to present coverage of the 2017 U.S. Ultimate Open Championships. Welcome to the National Sports Center in Blaine, Minnesota, as we get set for the final in the mixed division. A rivalry reacquainted Minneapolis Dragon Thrust getting set to take on Seattle Mixtape. A look at the brackets earlier today. Dragon Thrust was able to knock off the defending national champions Boston Slow White by a score of 15-12, while Mixtape handed AMP their first loss of the weekend. So that sets up the showdown here tonight. And a pleasant good evening. Sean Kinney alongside the voice of Ultimate, Evan Lepler. Great to have you with us on what's been an exhilarating day of Ultimate here in Blaine. You look at this final tonight between these two longtime rivals. There's some history between these two teams, and they both make it clear.
There's a lot of unfinished business in this rivalry. 3 years in a row at Club Nationals, Dragon Thrust has ended Seattle Mixtape season. 2 years ago and 3 years ago it happened in the finals. Last year it happened in the quarters, and the defending champs Dragon Thrust, well, they couldn't go all the way. Perhaps Mixtape took something out of them, but these are two teams that will go 100%. It should be a lot of fun to watch.
The spotlight of the finals here in Blaine. You look at this Minneapolis Dragon Thrust program founded back in 2009, led by Jake Henderson. They had a dominant stretch for 3 consecutive years, national champs.
And they were a little shaky earlier in the U.S. Open, but they have gradually improved over the course of every game. Big win over Slow White this morning, and Sarah Mextroff had several great deep cuts in that win this morning. She's represented Team USA several times, and she is one of the key button women downfield for the Dragon Thrust offense.
10 goals already for Mextroff. Seattle Mixtape, Mikey Cavanaugh, their spirit captain. They are loaded with talent. Khalif El Salam, one of the best defenders. What makes this team go?
Well, they like to stay loose, but they also want to be competitive, and there's some bitterness towards this Dragon Thrust team, especially when you talk about Mark Burton, who spent the last couple years in the men's division with Seattle Sockeye, but his last memory playing with Mixtape was losing to Dragon Thrust in the championship game. This guy is determined to win a national championship. It's all he thinks about, and he wants to make a statement on national TV today.
The emotions are high. We're getting set for the finale, and it should be a spectacular one here in Minnesota. Dragon Thrust with a partisan crowd ready to rock and roll. Seattle Mixtape will try to slow them down. The opening poll coming up next.
The U.S. Open Ultimate Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar. Find the official disc of USA Ultimate at more than 1,900 U.S. retail locations.
A look at the starting lineups. Let's begin with Dragon Thrust. Oakley, Clark, Mextroff, Lean. A lot of talent. Cutters and the handlers for head coach Jake Henderson. Schuweiler, Vinoka coming off that big game earlier today in the semifinals. For Seattle Mixtape, Fong, Hauser, Johnson, Burton, Caballero, Revere, and Kircher. Seattle Mixtape will be operating in their white jerseys to our right, defending the south end here for the opening bowl. Dragon Thrust and their offensive line getting set. Emotions high as we move into the finale here. 2 champions have already been crowned. Seattle Sockeye and the men's just a few moments ago. Columbia, and now who will take home the U.S. Open Championship?
Last year at the U.S. Open, it was a silver day for Seattle, finishing in second place in every division. But the 206 has 1 gold already and looking for another.
Pick call downfield, so we'll stop the action for a moment. Mextroff will trigger in here for Dragon Thrust. Gets the break into the center. Vinoka, Brian Vinoka, new addition to this Minneapolis squad. Making the catch with the right hand is Claire Oakley. She'll turn. Swing it over far side to Schuweiler. Schuweiler's going to take a shot deep downfield, trying to run underneath it is Oakley, and she does. And an early hold for Minneapolis Dragon Thrust, and this crowd's going to get involved. The hometown team strikes and fires the opening salvo.
Dragon Thrust has 3 champions, but 3 championships, but they are a young team as well. And Charlie Schuweiler, 21 years old, his first year on the team, with some spectacular throws. And the southpaw dials deep. A dime for the assist to Oakley.
Oakley's been a part of this program the past 6 years. She traveled to Italy with Dragon Thrust for the World Championships a few years back. Her first goal of this game, the 5th of the weekend.
This Minneapolis team has built a dynasty. I mean, they won the national championship 2013, 2014, 2015. They were the first mixed team ever in USA Ultimate's history to win 3 consecutive national titles. They also sprinkled in a world championship in there. Jake Henderson, the head coach, took the reins of the USA national mixed team, won it all in London last year. I don't think you can say that their loss in the semifinals to the eventual champ last year ended the dynasty. I think it's very much alive. They're trying to continue it today.
The only loss for Dragon Thrust in the pool was the opening round loss to AMP, 15-10, but they have rattled off 5 straight wins since. Mixtape's not going to waste any time. Get used to this. And getting the D and knocking it away. Coming over for Dragon Thrust. Good read that time by Showdown.
Well, Seattle Mixtape made the finals by holstering some of these reckless shots. They're a team that sometimes struggles from a discipline standpoint. The athletes they have, you can't dispute.
Drescher with a backhand, Huck downfield, but he missed his target. Turnover for Minneapolis.
You can't dispute the athleticism Seattle has, but it's important for them to rein in some of the over-ambitious shots and just take what Dragon Thrust is giving them. Because with a cutter like Claire Revere, she can really carve up a defense. We've seen her do it before.
Revere had the disc. They go to the center. Opportunity maybe for Mixtape. They're going to take a shot toward the end zone. It hovers and it's hauled in for the score.
That's a much better shot. Not forcing it to go full field. You work it up, Revere to Burton, and then finding Kircher in the end zone. Mark Burton, as good as anyone in Ultimate. He's played men's, he's played mixed. At moving the disc, he can strike downfield, but he loves to come under and then turn and launch.
Mark was telling us earlier today, one of the big reasons he was excited for this team this year was the addition of Paige Kircher, who recently moved to Montana, played for the Polar Bears last year. Tremendous talent. Depth on the women's side, and she gets the first goal of the game for Seattle Mixtape. These two teams talked openly about the emotion. This is a big moment for the mixed division in the Ultimate World, national television. Big spotlight, the first leg of the Triple Crown Tour. Both these teams wanted to come out and perform.
No question about it. The college championships have been on ESPNU Memorial Day weekend for many, many years. And this is the first time the club division getting showcased on ESPN2. Minnesota at home. This is the second time the U.S. Open's been held here in Minnesota. 3 years ago, it was an incredibly windy and stormy day. We had some storms today, but the wind, not a huge factor, and that's allowed for some really pretty, majestic Ultimate.
Minneapolis casually working their way down the field. Patient approach. Here's a shot toward the end zone, knocked away at the last second. And let's see if the foul is going to be called. Alex Duffel came in, and those two will discuss it as we take a second look.
Wow. He definitely didn't secure possession before the contact, but it might be a foul.
So they go to the observer for the call. He says foul. Dragon Thrust on the doorstep. See the observers in orange. They only jump in if the players cannot resolve the dispute. Dragon thrust scores. Brian Vanoka. And Minneapolis with a 2-1 lead.
Second straight turnover-free hold for the Minneapolis offense. Austin Lean has been a quarterback and captain of this O-line for a long time. And how about the offhand, low-release, lefty backhand shot, showing off the versatility to Vanoka.
You were talking earlier today in the semifinals. The addition of this young man is a big one, you feel, for Minneapolis.
Yeah, I think by the end of the year, we're going to look back at Bevon as one of the top 5 additions in this mixed division because of his speed and shiftiness as a cutter. We've seen him elevate throughout the tournament, go up over people despite his smaller stature, and he's a finisher.
Jeff Trosvig in his 8th year, awaiting the pole for Minneapolis Dragon Thrust. 2-1 early on in the championship of this mixed final.
It's interesting to note, Sean, that both these teams had hiccups earlier in this tournament. It began Friday morning. Neither of these teams won their pools, but the top 2 teams in each pool made it to the semifinals. And in the semifinals, both these teams knocked off stronger squads like Slow White and Amp that had gone through pool play unbeaten. Oh! Brian Schoenrock bidding for the under.
Schoenrock with the layout, gets the D, back to Dragon Thrust. Trosvig, low release, and the bookends from Minneapolis. Schoenrock hauls it in, a beautiful feed from Trosvig, 3-1 Dragon Thrust.
Brian Schoenrock, his 6th year on this team. He's been involved in 3 championships, making plays like that. And everyone on this team knows that after he gets a D, he wants to go long. And whether it's Jay Drescher picking up or Jeff Trosvig, they've got the arsenal to fire and make him rise for the score.
Sixth goal this week for Brian Schoenrock from nearby Maple Grove, Minnesota, about 25 miles down 610. Family and friends. Trosvig, another helper, 12 assists this weekend.
Yeah, Trosvig is in his 8th year on this team. The head coach, Jake Henderson, has talked about how it feels like a really new roster with a different personality, with a bunch of new faces like Neil Hankey and Marty Adams and Robin Fassett Carmen and Brian Vanoka, Charlie Schuweiler, Sarah Espinoza, Kat Ritzman, bunch of first-year players. But there are 17 players on the 2017 Dragon Thrust roster, the core of this team that was involved in all the championships starting in 2013.
Beautiful high pull allows Dragon Thrust to set up their defense. Working in the shadows of their own end zone, Seattle Mixtape. Give and go action gets them out of the end zone. They're forcing that backhand on the mark. And the lob caught. Mixtape contains. Now they'll take a shot deep downfield, bombs away, and it is tipped away. A foul called as they tried to hit Revere. That's their home run hitter on the women's side. And now discussion between Revere and Kat Ritzman.
Wow. Throughout that entire point, Ritzman played such great defense on Revere, and it looked like she had great D in the end zone too.
Okay, you called foul, and okay, what I saw is that you were tugging on her during the run. So observer ruling is it was a foul, so it's her disc here, and then she's gonna walk it back to the line. Everybody freeze, freeze!
See the 4 observers. You heard the observer mic'd up. That's what goes on in the field, the spirit of the game.
Notice how he didn't say that Ritzman failed to go up and get the disc cleanly. It was the contact in pursuit that was the foul. That's a break for Mixtape.
Into the end zone for the score. Revere the assist, able to find Johnny Wynn, and Seattle Mixtape back down a point, 3-2.
This Revere-Ritzman matchup is going to be one to watch throughout the game, because Ritzman, just 22, just moved to the Twin Cities out of the University of Delaware. Doesn't have necessarily a ton of experience playing with Dragon Thrust, but Revere's not much older. I mean, she's still in the heyday of her college career at Whitman, and they are two incredibly feisty athletes.
Johnny Wynn in her second year has really been a pleasant surprise. Talking with some of the Mixtape players, she has really played well the last few games, pushing Seattle into this final. Good look at Claire Revere. You're going to hear her name a lot over the next 90 minutes. Phenomenal player. El Salam with the pull.
Khalif El Salam's a guy made for prime time. Don't be surprised if he does something electric.
Feel that breeze, that wind picking up. It's been a fairly calm day despite all the storm activity, but that wind has picked up a little bit over the last 15, 20 minutes. Renoka, hounded by Khalif El Salam, goes back to the center. Drag route caught across the field by Lean. Lean goes to the far side as they continue to work it opposite sideline. Seattle trying to pick up the intensity a little bit on the defensive end, making Dragon Thrust work. This is Austin Lean. He'll take a shot downfield, 50-50, and it's going to be a beautiful read by Mixtape as they were trying to hit the home run on the deep huck, but a good read that time coming over by Evan Klein.
Evan Klein had a huge game this morning in the semifinal win over AMP, and just did a better job than Clark attacking that disc. It's almost as if Clark recognized he wasn't going to be able to attack that disc and stay in bounds. This is the first break chance for the Seattle D-line.
Keep an eye on number 99, Khalif El Salam. Blazing speed. Set up the stack. They're going to take a shot looking for Khalif. Overshot him, incomplete. Good defense along that back end by Dragon Thrust. They knew what was coming.
This is when Mixtape gets into trouble. When they get a little tunnel vision and get Khalif Huck happy. You can't force this. He can get open in the flow of the offense. But if you force it, you're playing into Dragon Thrust's hands.
Missed opportunity for Mixtape to try to get the break. Back comes Minneapolis near their goal line. Good back cut there to get open. So they work it upfield. They swing it near side to Mike Clark. Clark had a huge semifinal game earlier today. A big reason Dragon Thrust is here. Now on the backhand.
There's a foul call before that throw went up. And
Minoka hauls it in, but as Evan mentioned, a foul before the throw.
I think the foul was involving Clark and Klein.
Before the observer will indicate where they will play it in, and it's going to be on one.
That was actually involving Kavanaugh further behind the play to the right. It's a nice throw by Lean, but it comes back.
Austin Lean, who's played with Dragon Thrust since its inception in 2009. He joined the roster then as a 19-year-old.
You know, I don't want to say there's bad blood between these two teams. There might be a little bit, but there have been some games between these two teams in the past that have gotten muddied up by some testy emotions. Let's just say that. I think there's a healthy respect, but I also think there's a firm desire to win on both sides.
See that low release uncorked by Lee. Swing it back over to Lean. Lean spins on that pivot foot. Little give and go action.
I'll tell you, Charlie Schuweiler has not been intimidated by the moment early in this championship game at all.
Here's the hammer toss into a crowd, and it's deflected away. Took a chance. Nice read there by Jen Cogburn as she got her hand on it.
Seattle Mixtape calls her Jen City because anything in the area, she gets it. Whether it's a throw to a female or a male, she has gone up and made plays like that throughout her time on this team.
Cavanaugh flicks it ahead. And Mixtape ties it up on the diving grab. You see the feed by Cavanaugh. And Mixtape ties it up 3-all.
Tough landing on that score, but it is a break after 3 turnovers on the point. Couple missed opportunities for Dragon Thrust. That's Henry Fan with the assist. Lexi Dare on the score. Lexi Garrity, excuse me.
Dragon Thrust begins the offense. And the D, getting a hand up in the nick of time, was Klein, second D of the game.
That's just intelligent defense, poaching into the lane, reading the eyes of the handler.
Break opportunity for Mixtape. And Seattle strikes in the center. Back-to-back points for the Pacific Northwest.
Abbott to Abramovich. You saw the poach. Crosby wasn't really even cutting. It was kind of just a shot to space, but the space disappeared because of Klein's awareness. And then Bert Abbott, the Mixtape veteran, to Abramovich, the rookie.
Abramovich, like so many of her teammates this weekend, she's doing double duty. We have a lot of these players who are coaching youth clubs here at this tournament. They coach back when they're back in the Northwest. I think we were counting it all up, over 7. The current Mixtape roster in some type of coaching capacity, Evan.
Yeah, this is a team of leaders in the community. And there's a lot of ultimate coaches, also folks who coach other sports. Mark Burton is a varsity girls basketball coach. Timeout called by Minneapolis Dragon Thrust.
2 quick ones by Seattle Mixtape. They had the lead 4-3 after the initial strong start by Dragon Thrust.
They had the 2 breaks, a 3-0 run from being down 3-1.
Seattle going 4-1 in pool play, good enough for second place. Beat Mischief from the Bay Area, 16-14. Took care of Philadelphia Amp. by a score of 15-9.
Saturday morning was the turning point in the tournament for Seattle Mixtape. On Friday afternoon, they got blasted by Boston Slow White in a game that I think a lot of people were really looking forward to, and Slow White played its most complete game of the tournament. Mixtape just lost its rhythm, and consequently they had a good team meeting Friday night and began to turn the page, talking about trusting each other and taking pride in their defense. And in the game against Mischief, they really felt they've turned a corner in this tournament. Finished the rest of pool play without a loss, and then the win over AMP today. I wouldn't have said I would have been surprised if Seattle won the game. I was surprised by the margin by which they won the game. They were up 10-5, and Philly AMP was really out of it pretty early.
AMP team that was perfect in pool play. Hammer across the field, finds the mark. Jacob Lean sends it into the center as Dragon Thrust works their way out. Lay out there to keep possession. Excellent grab by Erica Bacon, the hard-nosed player from Minneapolis.
She's done that for a long time.
She has. Creative little throw into the corner of the end zone for the strike. Oh, what a beauty on the creativity with the throw. The put out. Schoenrock has his second goal.
Well, Bacon kept possession alive. You could see the body language from Schoenrock. He knew that that throw was a little off, but check this out. The only way he can get this throw off is to go over Cam Bailey and the entire defense. That is so difficult. Jacob Lean releasing it above his right ear to get it over the pack in the middle of the field. Wow. For most people, that's a hammer. But the hammer is a longer release, and he would have had to step across, and he didn't have that much time because Schoenrock didn't have a ton of open space. I'm not sure I've ever seen Jacob Lean throw a high release flick quite like that.
Lean in his fourth year, 25-year-old, played for the Arizona Sunburn for 5 years, earned a trip to nationals back in 2013. His Dragon Thrust team placing second in Pool B behind AMP from Philadelphia. Very good Metro North team, finishing 3-2. Top two teams from each of the two pools advanced into the semifinals, which were played earlier today.
It was a competitive game they played against AMP, but the team from Philly was just a little better in the second half. Minneapolis learned from it, has made some adjustments, and certainly has found its groove throughout the tournament.
Claire Revere patiently waiting for a cut to open up. Quickly swing it opposite side. Drew Johnson dumps it back over to Cavallero. Cavallero with a height advantage, a good 3-4 inches on his mark. Big, tall, slender target for Mixtape. Cavallero will take it on the far side to Revere. And now Revere is going to launch toward the end zone, going up with the right hand and snatching it for the Mixtape scores, Brad Hauser.
Hauser's one of the favorite deep targets for Seattle Mixtape. I know Mark Burton loves throwing to Brad Hauser. Here's Claire Revere taking a page out of Burton's book, making the cut under, a quick glance downfield, realizing that Hauser has the space. He set up the cut well against Marty Adams. Gorgeous toss from Revere. Turnover free hold for the Mixtape offense. No one scored more on this team than Hauser, and you look at what Revere has done. I mean, what she did for the Whitman Sweets 2016 at College Nationals, leading tiny Whitman College from Walla Walla, Washington, all the way to the championship game. It was an unreal performance. One of the biggest surprises of the college season this year, Sean, was that Claire Revere and several other of their top players returned, and that Whitman could not replicate the success of 2016 this past spring.
Yeah, made it all the way to the finals, losing to Stanford in the championship. Skilled young player, no doubt about it. There's dragon thrust, down a point. This one was tipped, and it's a stop there for Seattle Mixtape, a hand deflection. And Mixtape will take over, chance for a break opportunity.
Cogburn got a piece of that around flick from Mexstroth. And a huge opportunity here for Seattle.
Khalif El Salam. Salam trying to cut back. He drew a lot of attention, and now a diving sprawl in the front of the end zone for the score by Bert Abbott. Solid first half for Abbott. Beautiful stretch. So Abbott showing her athleticism. Mixtape, a little bit of momentum on their side. Pacific Northwest and Seattle with the lead.
There aren't many players in the world of Ultimate that have more passion for their city or their team than Mixtape's Bert Abbott. And this extension in the front of the end zone for a break to give Mixtape a critical 2-score lead early in this championship game.
Mixtape 3 of 4 on break chances in this first half. Thus, the big reason they lead by 2 and have turned the tables slightly after the strong start by Dragon Thrust. Saw the pole go out of bounds, so they will relocate at the brick, spot where play will be initiated when that pole goes out of bounds. Ooh, nearly a mistake there by Bacon, but she's able to corral it. Mexstroth goes right back to Bacon. Eric and Bacon with the backhand deep downfield, and it's going to be an easy score for Dragon Thrust.
What a throw from Bacon. On paper, Austin Lean versus Jesse Bolton. I would give the advantage to Bolton, but Lean had the steps. If this is underthrown at all, Bolton makes the play. But because of the depth that Bacon fired it with downfield, an easy catch for Lean. It's an important hold for Dragon Thrust because Seattle Mixtape, after the first couple of points, really ratcheted up that defensive pressure. And you saw the little shakiness from McCain in the bobble and the handler set. That's a very important score to stabilize this effort. You know, it's interesting, Sean, these two teams have very different styles about the way they go about their business. Over the past couple of years, Seattle Mixtape, probably even unbeknownst to them, have made a commitment to become a little bit more like Dragon Thrust, who's probably the exemplary team in the mixed division for being businesslike, purposeful. They practice with passion and intent. They care about each other. Their idea of having fun is competing at the highest level and giving everything they have. And I think Mixtape's mentality in the past wasn't necessarily that. They wanted to have fun and be goofy, and if they could win games with that philosophy, it was great. Now they're taking it more seriously, and it showed with their performance in the semifinals this morning.
Number 16 in white, number 9 in purple. Burton and Drescher going up, and it's Drescher with the D. These two have went back and forth through the years. A real healthy rivalry between these two ultimate competitors.
Well, this was Drescher's disc the whole way. With a stall count rising, Cavallero saw Burton going deep, and rather than risk a stall or a short throw that could be turned over, he said, worst case scenario, I'm punting this disc. You typically don't want two members of your own team going into that deep space at the same time. Seattle had both Burton and Hauser occupying that territory, but obviously Drescher got there first.
Good cut, Jess.
Off the reset, this is Alicia Carr. Had a good game handling from her defensive line position earlier in the semifinals. And now a shot downfield. Did not look like Schoenrock was ready for it. And it will be taken away by Seattle Mixtape. He was a little late to the party that time. I don't think he initially thought they were going to let that huck fly.
Yeah, it was a bad decision by Jacob Lean. He fired it deep when Schoenrock had rerouted his cut under. Uncharacteristic miscommunication.
A backhand huck that's knocked away by Jacob Lean, but we have a call and contact on the release by Drescher.
All right, okay. So coming to me. All right, he called foul on the throw. I saw it. It was still in his hand when you fouled him. Okay. So it is a foul. Count it at 1.
It's a nice quick resolution.
Very good.
Ultimate self. Oh, goodness. Oh, there's a saying in Ultimate that the disc doesn't lie. I did think that was a foul. I thought it was a good call from the observer. But the drop by Abramovich immediately afterwards.
Lean swings it to Drescher. Drescher takes a shot into the end zone. Nearly caught on the deflection off the fingertips of Schoenrock, and he gets up a little bit wobbly.
Hauser played this well. He went to the spot where he knew Schoenrock wanted to be, but he went at a tempo that prevented him from fouling Schoenrock.
He readjusted. It looked like that ankle twisted awkwardly.
He's an important player for this team, no doubt about it.
They are allowed a substitution for an injury at the club level. They're going to take a look at that left ankle for Schoenrock, and that is a big, big part of the Dragon Thrust success. Mixtape clears out the pylon with Brad Hauser as he starts the offense. Khalif El Salam, and he is going to rocket it away, and he overshot his man. There's that Mixtape philosophy. They're going to keep trying and trying to go deep, even though sometimes it might not be the wisest decision.
Khalif El Salam has been a gunslinger. Started playing in middle school. He's always been toolsy. When he was 21 years old, Khalif said, by the time I'm 27, I want to be the best player in the world. Now he's 24. He still has room for growth.
This one sailed on the throw, and two teams exchanging turnovers back to Mixtape close to the red zone. Dragon Thrust blows their opportunity for a 5th break chance in this first half, trailing by 1, 6-5 Mixtape. Good position here to go up 2. This time Drescher will get the duties of trying to slow down El Salam, and those two make contact. Drescher, he is fun to watch because he is one of those guys. He's going to stick his nose in yours, and he's going to get right on you and just try to agitate you for the course of the game. Hard-nosed competitor.
He's had a lot of battles with both Burton and El Salam.
Burton thought about going to the break side, instead lobs it to El Salam. Ditsy-do right in front of that pylon. El Salam asking if he was in the end zone. I did not see the score signal. I think he's going to be just short, but there is an injured Dragon Thrust player as we take another look. And it's going to be Drescher, who's down. He looks like he landed right on that leg of El Salam. You see that left foot of El Salam and the cleat go right into the midsection. El Salam comes up holding his left leg. So you talk about a real tough sequence for Dragon Thrust. Just a few moments ago, they lose Schoenrock with what appeared to be an ankle injury, and now their other leader on the men's side of things with Drescher slow to get up.
Yeah, I think Jay Drescher got a TMF, a team misconduct foul for that bid. When he left his feet there, he didn't really have a spot to land that wouldn't have been on El Salam. Glad Khalif is all right, because the landing, I think if El Salam is in the normal field of play, he doesn't get his foot caught up under Drescher, but because he was trying to drag it on the sideline, that's what eventually resulted in Drescher's injury, taking that cleat to the chest.
Mark Burton trying to get some space to work for his cutters. Drew Johnson looking. Comes back to Burton, fought for a moment at El Salam, and we have a collision in the end zone. And again, two more players down.
By the rules, Sean, Ultimate is a non-contact sport. In reality, in actuality, you're seeing that you need to be physically tough, because the contact is real, the speed is vicious.
Good news, everybody popping back up onto their feet, everybody all right. Burton looking for the assist toward the end zone and the score for Mixtape. Rahovic hauls it in. It's her second goal of this first half, and Seattle a point away from halftime. Goes up 7-5.
This is a very circuitous offensive hold from Seattle. Several turns on the point, missed opportunities from both sides. When Seattle Mixtape first made it to the finals of Nationals, Mark Burton was a do-everything kind of guy. He led the team that year in goals and assists, and obviously turnovers too. He did everything, both good and bad. He left for the mixed division for a couple years. He's back again with the unfinished business, especially against this Minneapolis Dragon Thrust team.
Slow White goes 5-0 in pool play. Mixtape finishing second. With that 4-1 record, we saw Slow White lose earlier today to Dragon Thrust in the semifinal.
This sequence coming up. Now Seattle up by 2, Dragon Thrust receiving. A couple years ago when these two teams last met in the title game at Club Nationals in Frisco, Texas, Mixtape built a 7-4 first half lead. The score was 8-7 at the half. A little bit of a lull late in the half allowed Dragon Thrust to get back in it, and then Minneapolis closed it out in the second half.
Watch the inside.
Mike Clark able to get the around throw. They reset the vertical stack downfield as the Cutters head their separate ways. Coming near side is where they settle. Claire Oakley up along the side to Schuweiler. The throw across field by Schuweiler finds the target. Clark trying to redirect some traffic a little bit. Martha Lean obliges. Lean looking to go inside. No release finds Clark 15 yards away, operating toward that red zone, and it's a Dragon Thrust score. Big possession ends up in the score. Jamie Glader hauls it in. Ninth-year player, the veteran from Eau Claire.
Some pretty good pressure on this point from the Mixtape defense. Cameron Bailey never afraid to bid. There's Jamie Glader for that matter. In her 9th season in this program. Played at University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. Had a really good women's ultimate program. Of course, Robin Wiseman played at Eau Claire.
She was part, in talking about Glader, she was part of the inaugural Seoul team back in 2005. Like so many of these players, when they pick up the sport, you see a lot of these players not pick up the sport until their college years. I think that trend is changing, as evident by the mass numbers we saw the past couple of days with the YCC.
Yeah, the U.S. Open for the first time unfolding concurrently with the Youth Club Championships. YCC, youth teams from around the country, U20 and U17. Over 3,000 athletes have come to the Twin Cities to compete here in Minnesota this weekend. And more than 2/3 of them are in the youth division. And it really bodes well for the future of Ultimate.
Seattle trying to push this to halftime if they can find the end zone, leading 7-6. And they're going to take a shot downfield. Revere, El Salam, both in the area, batted around. The D made by Minneapolis Dragon Thrust.
That's Sarah Mextroff. She's got the size in the Revere matchup.
Mextroff immediately torpedoes downfield, and El Salam giving up the body with the layout and the bid.
He wants it.
El Salam on the feed from Burton. It's tipped in the air, still alive, and El Salam can't counter to get to it. Oh, you tip that disc straight up. It's dangerous when you have an athlete like El Salam.
Impressive recovery from Brett Sullivan to get up, chase down Khalif, and deny Burton another dime.
Bacon. Again, we've seen her save possession twice in this first half. With the handler position.
Ryan Schoenrock is back into the game, and in fact, he cut off Sarah Mextroff, who wanted to go deep on Revere, but Schoenrock was in the area, so Dragon Thrust could not launch it for their top female deep threat.
Bacon, who was 40 yards deep, comes back into the stack. Now breaking free downfield is Neil Hankey, and Hankey is going to dive and make the catch! Oh my! Sprawling out, Hankey hauls it in.
What a sequence. Sullivan recovered after El Salam's D. And then Mextroff, who couldn't go deep herself, shows off that fierce flick, and Hankey giving everything he's got. He's been in the mixed division for a long time, but for forever, a CLX member, Chad Larson experience, and that certainly should be a SportsCenter top 10 nominee. Neil Hankey from Sarah Mextroff to tie this thing up at the U.S. Open.
Second break of this first half for Dragon Thrust. First goal of the game for Hankey.
And as we often see, it's 7-all, 1 point until the break. We get a timeout on the field. Bunch of similarities to the finals from 2 years ago, with the teams trading barbs early. These two teams have gone on several runs against each other. They usually don't trade back and forth. It is one team gets 2-3 in a row, and then the other team counters. And part of that is lack of consistency, obviously. Part of it is the emotion that these two teams play with. That's pretty evident.
We near half, 7-7 our score. You saw Mextroff with that last throw, and a lot of weight, a lot of pressure on her shoulders with a key departure from last year's team on the women's side of this makeup.
There's no question about it, Sean. You know, 2 years ago when this Minneapolis team lost James Hron, who was a true alpha dog for their offense, you wondered who would step up in his shoes. Would they remain a championship team? The answer was a bunch of different people, and yes, Mextroff was one of them. She and her fellow former teammate Sarah Ancio were two incredibly dynamic defenders and deep cutters for this Dragon Thrust team. Ancio left to play in the women's division this year with Madison Heist, but they still got Sarah Mextroth, and she needs her teammates, obviously, to make plays, but she is welcome on any team in the world.
So for the third time, Seattle a chance to try to get this thing to halftime and have the lead. Jesse Bolton, front of an offensive line for Mixtape. He will have the disc 3 yards deep in his end zone.
Jesse Bolton, one of those guys that was coaching. He had to miss a part of the semifinal game because he was coaching YCC this morning.
Yeah, showed up at halftime. Brad Hauser looks over his options. Kersher, who has a goal in this game, comes back to the center. Abramovich back on the near side to Mark Burton. Burton with the swing across the way. Jesse Bolton looks. Cutting into the center to the open space is Kersher. She'll launch toward the end zone, and the diving grab is made. Halftime is reached. Mark Burton hauls it in. The emotional firecracker, the leader of this Mixtape team. And Seattle at halftime with an 8-7 lead. Beautiful throw by Kersher, and then the bid.
Mark,
right hand.
Burton is not the prettiest player, and he would acknowledge that, but he just has a knack for getting it done, accelerating at the right times. 8-7, Mixtape takes half, and head coach of Minneapolis Dragon Thrust, Jake Henderson, joins us. Jake, your thoughts on that back and forth first half? Seems like it's a lot of emotions out there on the field.
It's a classic Mixtape Dragon game. A lot of back and forth, a couple of runs here and there. It's always fun.
Anything in the first half that you didn't like from your team that you'll be seeking to correct?
I think it's the same as the last game. We just got to chill out a little bit. We're taking some shots that we don't need to take. We have open unders and we've got easier swings. We chill out a little bit, and I think we're looking really good.
We saw two of your guys go down briefly. Two key cogs with Schoenrock and Drescher. How are they feeling as we get set for the second half?
I think they're okay.
Good to hear. Good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
8-7, Seattle Mixtape. The Pacific Northwest looking to make 2017 their year. An 8-7 lead in the mixed final of the U.S. Open. Tom Crawford, Andy Lee there in the backdrop, enjoying the spotlight for USA Ultimate here in the finals of the mixed division. Seattle Mixtape and Minneapolis Dragon Thrust putting on a show. 8-7 at the intermission. Plenty of highlights, a lot of hucks in that first half.
Yeah, a lot of huck and hope. Plenty of great throws. Charlie Schuweiler really impressed with the energy he gave Minneapolis early. Jeff Trosvig never shy to launch that ferocious flick. Ryan Schoenrock going up for it. Here, Henry Fan to Lexi Garrity in the back of the end zone. Just enough room. Jacob Lean, the cheeky high release to Schoenrock. And then a couple of bids from Seattle Mixtape. You have the deep shot from Mextroth to Hankey, giving up the body for his team. And then at the very end of the half, Mark Burton accelerating to haul in Kircher's shot that for a moment looked like it'd be a little far, but Burton, of course, made the play.
8-7 Mixtape at the intermission here in Blaine. Back with more right after these words. Halftime in the mixed division finals. We take a look at the first half scoring summary. Abramovich leading the way for Mixtape with a pair of goals. Garrity, Abbott, Hauser, Burton, Wynn, and Kersher. Both Burton and Revere each with a couple of assists. 7 different players distributing the disc for Minneapolis Dragon Thrush. Schoenrock with the 2 goals, leading the offensive attack. 8-7 Mixtape with the lead. Back with more from Blaine right after this as coverage continues from the Triple Crown Tour. Alongside Evan Lepler, Sean Kinney, and our entire fantastic crew here in Blaine, Minnesota. Welcome back as we get set for the start of the second half. Seattle Mixtape up a break. We'll be getting the opening pull to start this second half. Jeff Trosvik with the pull for Dragon Thrust.
That's an unreal torque. About 80 yards in the air on that forehand pull. You can really hurt your arm if you don't have the right mechanics and you try to do that.
Bolton's going to send her into the air, downfield. Going up was Hauser, but he cannot corral it. Off his fingertips. Good defense that time by Ritzman as she hung tough.
Yeah, Kat Ritzman didn't get the disc, but her position made it much tougher for Hauser. Give Hauser credit, he didn't go into the defensive player. And wow, just an unfortunate error, giving Seattle a gift.
Back-to-back turnovers. Mixtape will look to make them pay, trying to find Burton. Here comes that closing speed, but Burton hangs on. Oh, terrific concentration. Schoenrock with some late speed made that play real close, but Burton, his physical nature, able to hang on to it.
Wow. Well, they get to this back because of the turnover, and they don't waste much time. Schoenrock showing the wheels. And Burton maybe used that left arm just a little bit, but he goes up. He knew he was going to have to bid.
It's a heck of a catch.
This guy, there aren't too many guys as passionate about what they do as him. Just loves to compete. Loves to impact the lives of others too with his coaching and his push-offs.
You might have been able to hear some of the conversation as Burton came off the field and the healthy rivalry that he has with a lot of these Dragon Thrust players, and his opinion on what Schoenrock did there, and their brief conversation after he was able to haul it in.
We asked Burton earlier how the impact of the last 2 years on Sockeye has maybe changed him as a player, and I think he's more disciplined now. I think he's had a lot of conversations with Seattle Sockeye coach Roger Crafts about knowing your role, knowing your teammates, and trusting each other.
Making the most of those break opportunities. That's where Dragon Thrust has really struggled. Just 2 of 8 break opportunities this game for Minneapolis. Mixtape as a result with the 9-7 lead. Early on in the second half, game to 15. You're new to the Ultimate experience. Martha Lean looking backhand. Going to that force side. Here's Mextra. Soft touch, gets it to Vinoka. Soft mark by El Salam on Vinoka. Those two matched up downfield now, front of the goal line. Shovel it off, opposite sideline as Dragon Thrust starts their cuts. Dump back to Schuweiler.
Mextroth has to get involved here, and she starts to make a move against Cogburn.
Mextroth in the red zone. Cogburn on the mark, that low release. And look at the ups at the last second to get the D. Beautiful play that time by Cam Bailey.
Bailey likes to average about 100 layouts per tournament. So this is nothing new. And the closing speed accelerating for the huge catch block.
Bailey's a great story. He discovered Ultimate kind of as a fluke. At the time, he was a summer counselor. The adults wanted a break from the kids, so they started throwing the disc around the beach, and he's been a lover of it ever since. Hawk into the air, 50-50, and it's knocked away. The poach help, along with the hype of Schuweiler. Too much for Mixtape that time.
And again, Schuweiler proves up to the task. Another questionable decision from El Salam, but goodness, this Dragon Thrust offense is about as loose as I've seen them.
Get ready, get ready.
We saw Bailey a few moments ago with the D, and now he has his first score. Cam Bailey. And now Seattle Mixtape in a solid position, up 10-7.
Starting to get away from Minneapolis just a little bit. You see Cam Bailey doing work on defense, and Evan Klein, quick little scuba. Bailey, the bookends. 10-7 Seattle.
Evan Klein getting the defensive assignments lined up. You take a look at those new looks, Seattle Mixtape jerseys and the fine print. Very proud of their new looks.
During the timeout, they shouted out their mantra, men lie, women lie, buckets don't. Buckets being goals, and Seattle 5 scores away from a U.S. Open title, the first leg of the 2017 Triple Crown Tour.
Tour continues, Labor Day weekend in Seattle, and then the climax in Sarasota with the Club Nationals. Talked about Seattle looking to bring a national championship back to the Pacific Northwest for the first time since both Shazam and Sockeye raised the hardware in 2007. 2007 the last time. Here we are 10 years later, Sockeye already with a men's championship. We're in this U.S. Open, and now Mixtape trying to do the same.
And a ton of silver medals during that drought for both Sockeye, Riot, and Mixtape.
Pick ball downfield.
I mean, in terms of ultimate communities, we are in a great one right now. The youth movement in the Twin Cities in terms of ultimate is incredible. But Seattle is the standard. Oh, wow.
Seattle never turned around, and look at disbelief on the face there for Minnesota Dragon Thrust. Marty Adams saying thank you very much. I'm not sure he thought this one was going to get through.
I'm not sure how it did get through. Looked like it went right through the hands of Cole Johnson. Evan Klein was there as well, and Adams has a moment. Dragon Thrust could use something from Alicia Carr. She made a bunch of really big plays this morning. She is a calming presence on this team, a true veteran out of the University of Minnesota Duluth in the 00 shirt. Carr talking about that play with Adams, because I'm not sure that's how Jake Henderson drew it up.
I guarantee you it's not. Let's go back to the discussion with the geographic locations here in the United States, and you have your traditional powerhouses, the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, the Amherst area with Boston. Where do you feel we've seen the most growth in the sport of ultimate in the continental United States in the last decade?
I think the Twin Cities in Minnesota have really been strong. I think the North Carolina scene has made a great commitment in that triangle. You have Raleigh and Chapel Hill and Durham and Cary, and a lot of great programs in the state of North Carolina. And really everywhere it is exploding. High school championships earlier this spring, team from Louisiana won it all. And a lot of folks in the ultimate community are like, how did a team from Louisiana, a group of high school students, become this good?
Turnover by Jesse Bolton as he overshot Mark Burton. Break opportunity for Dragon Thrust. This has been an area that they have struggled in. These break chances today, can they capitalize here?
They were so good this morning against Slow White, these break opportunities.
Bolton for a moment thought about giving up the body, but then backed off at the last second. This will be a strip call as Bolton reached in. I think you nailed it earlier, Evan, when you talked about these two teams and their styles, as you see the hammer to the front of the end zone, elevating up just shy of Schoenrock. Back to Lean. Let's see if they can fully convert here. Lean patiently waiting. Vinoka threads the needle inside, and a healthy Drescher holds it in, and a break by Minneapolis Dragon Thrust.
Drescher back in the game after taking the cleat to the chest. He throws it deep to Schoenrock more than everybody. He lands on the line. That was his first point of contact. He's not in. But they patiently work it in the red zone and into Drescher's grasp. That is a gigantic break in this second half for Dragon.
Just finishing my point, you mentioned a 3-point lead. With the way these two teams play, really isn't as insurmountable as, say, the men's division, even the women's division, with the way they're so efficient offensively. These are two teams that like to take shots. There's going to be turnovers.
I mean, the first half highlights were a great illustration. It was one huck after another. Some of them work out, some of them don't, but that high variability
Were you thinking going around
creates
first? And then like, yeah. And then
the roller coaster ride.
He probably was just going to be like comfortable with it, so I was just like, I'll go. Yeah.
Jay Drescher has done a lot to work on his footwork through the years. He spent time studying ballet.
Yeah, absolutely.
He looks a little like a ballerina on the field, doesn't he? Not the most graceful ballerina, perhaps.
I wouldn't want to cross his path
Like
in the line of dance. The way he is so hard-nosed.
mixture of a ballerina and a raging bull.
All right, big hold here for Seattle Mixtape. They can take care of business. Burton comes back to it. Comes near side. See the bid attempt by Dragon Thrust. Corral though by Abranovich. There's the swing pass. Mixtape looking to take a shot deep downfield. This is Klein, and he won't be able to get to it. And another turnover. And all of a sudden, Minneapolis Dragon Thrust behind this large crowd, trying to get momentum back on their side.
From the moment Cavallero released that disc, he knew it was a little bit off. He wanted a little bit more flatness to the disc. It curled outside in, and you said it, an opportunity here for Dragon Thrust. Mixtape with the 8th turnover of the game on Hucks alone.
Speaking of Hucks, they're looking for Mexstroth. Mexstroth can't come up with it. Just beyond her reach. Boy, she was chugging those arms, windmill style, to try to get there, pick up some extra sail, just beyond her outstretched arms.
Trosvig just a little too much. It was there. She had Abramovich beat. Unable to run it down.
Timeout, Dragon Thrust. Seattle with a 10-9 lead. Earlier today, 2 champions crowned, one in the men's division, one in the women's. Let's start with the men. Revolver and Seattle Sockeye. Uncharacteristic early mistakes by Revolver.
Yeah, they were really sloppy. They played nearly a perfect game yesterday with only 5 turnovers, and they had that many turnovers in the first 5 points today. Sockeye got a little fortunate. That D from Ashlyn Joy, saved by Hussein Carnegie with a ridiculous bid. Big game from Simon Montague and Danny Karlinski in the handler set. But this story for Seattle was really about the Dillons. Here's Greg Cohen getting the break for San Francisco. But the performances of both Trent Dillon and Dylan Freechild, both former Callahan winners. Trent Dillon joined the team last year. Dylan Freechild joined the team this year. And Sockeye just had everything rolling. Last year's U.S. Open champion Chicago Machine did not go to the finals in Nationals. But the Seattle Sockeye team made a statement, beating Revolver not just once this weekend, but twice. They got him in pool play by 2. They get him again in the finals by lopsided standards. It was a 9-9 game, and then Sockeye closed on a 6-1 run.
The D, potential D here by Dragon Thrust and Brett Sullivan, but a foul called, and the two will discuss. and see if they go to the observer. Doesn't look like Sullivan's going to give in on that.
Okay.
We take another look at Sullivan on the bid, on the D attempt, trying to knock it away from Evan Klein. There is an injury as well behind the action. Somebody down for dragon thrust.
Okay, let's figure out what's happening down here.
So we have an injury at one part of the field, back near midfield. Can't quite tell. Is that Trosvig, Evan?
It is. And he is not putting any weight on anything. Wow.
One of the true distributors of this offense, Jeff Trosvig, being carried off the field.
We talked about this being an emotional matchup. This is not what we meant in terms of seeing Dragon Thrust top players go down one by one.
First Schoenrock. Saw Drescher leave. Both those players were able to return.
Trosvig's dealt with injuries
foul
through the years.
You turn over here. All right.
Missed one of the Dragon Thrust championships because he was hurt.
All right. Yes. 20.
A turnover at the goal line. No foul. We heard the observer come in. And now Dragon thrust, but look at the play defensively to keep the lead for Mixtape. Dominique Cavallero with those long arms swooping around to get the huge play. Remember that one. Boy, look at these two teams just giving up the bodies near the goal line. Huge play defensively by Cavallero, 60-year player, the 25-year-old, part of that depth for Mixtape that Burton talked about. Now they'll try to cap it at the other end to go up two, and they do. Burton hauls it in, 11-9 Seattle. And you talk about a game swing in a matter of seconds.
Erica Bacon wants this throw back. It was just well behind the intended target. Cavallero was right there, but a good throw, and that's a score. And then Cavallero giving it to Burton. And he read it all the way. It's a good shot from Cavallero. Mark Burton has scored 3 goals, and they've all been since 8-7. He scored 3 of the last 4 for Mixtape.
We talked about the trust that this team has with one another at an all-time high. In his years with Seattle Mixtape, a big reason that he was so excited. He talked about the depth, not just the 1 through 7, you know, those top tier men and women on this squad, but those role players and how everybody knows their role and how everybody trusts in that relationship.
It is the depth, it is also the continuity. There are only a small handful of players that are in their first year on Mixtape. They made the commitment after last season with a disappointing loss to this Dragon Thrust team in the quarterfinals at Nationals. Most people wanted to come back and get some revenge.
See who steps in to fill the void. One of the main handlers in Trosvig for Minneapolis Dragon Thrust as they look at a 2-point deficit here in this second half. Clark on the around, able to swing it safely. High flying huck downfield and knocking it away from Mixtape. Turnover as Cogburn read it beautifully.
Kansas City.
Anything that goes up in her neighborhood is hers. A nickname from her teammates, and she is continuing that trend here in the finals tonight. El Salam Khalif turns and surveys. Has an open underneath route just shy of the pylon. And Mixtape's going to use a timeout. They know this is an important possession. Go up 3 late in this game.
Jen Cogburn, missed opportunity earlier, a couple throws earlier. Cam Bailey laid out for a reset when Mike Clark had the disc. Clark alertly took off long, and he had Bailey beat. Bailey was calling for a switch. They didn't really get it, but there was really not a throwing lane. They tried to get it deep the other way, and obviously Cogburn was having none of that.
Timeout taken, so the two teams will re-huddle. Seattle with an 11-9 lead. Earlier today, a game that withstood about a half-hour weather delay. Columbia Revolution, maybe the story of this three-day tournament, as they took care of business against Molly Brown.
Absolutely the story of the tournament. A historic moment for International Ultimate. A team from outside North America comes to the US Open and takes care of business with a beautiful brand of disc. The 18-year-old twins, Manuela and Valeria Cardenas, were unbelievable, as was Gina Cartagena. The athleticism, the precision, the poise, the infectious enthusiasm from this team that is determined to win a world title next year. Congratulations to Mauricio Moore and the women of Medellin's Revolution.
38 assists by Cartagena. Oh, a big drop there from Mixtape. Chance to go up 3 just off the fingertips, as Cogburn was unable to corral it.
Would have been a nice grab, but that is a gift for Minneapolis, but they just give it right back unless the foul goes against Bailey. We'll see.
Cam Bailey has certainly made his impact, his mark in this game with his defensive play.
In the rules, tie goes to the offense. It was really close.
I call it strip on it. I call it strip on it. You're calling it strip on it.
Okay.
We both have strip calls. We both.
All right. All right, guys. Okay. So observer ruling is he had it first.
Okay.
So it's not a strip. It's a turnover here.
Why have to have the ball?
No.
On a strip, he does. I actually.
No.
I'm saying I caught it. I think I did. But
Yeah.
I would like to not.
No, I mean, because if you think the ground caused the turnover, then it's not a double turnover. It's just on the ground. So as a closest defender, tap the ground and it's live.
Good spirit from both players. Love to see the replay as slowly as we can. And we'll take a look at it after this sequence here.
Got a feeling they're looking for Khalif El Salam, and that's exactly what they do. Beautiful feed by Abbott. And El Salam rowing his way possibly to a Mixtape title.
Let's see. Lean and Bailey, who got their hand on the disc first? Whew. Really, really close.
Almost looked like Lean did, actually, from that angle.
Abbott, though, finding El Salam, and the kid they call Leaf has Seattle 3 points away.
I like that move.
The U.S. Open Ultimate Championships are presented by Discraft Ultrastar. Find the official disc of USA Ultimate at more than 1,900 U.S. retail locations.
Quite a show over the past 3 days here in Blaine, Minnesota. The local officials, USA Ultimate, putting together a great first leg of the Triple Crown Tour as we wind it down. Seattle Mixtape leading by 3 in this mixed division final. Dragon thrust with possession as they operate right to left. Erica Bacon, beautiful catch. X-Men kept it alive. But her pass offline, and it's a Dragon thrust turnover.
They've just been a little out of sync, especially here in the second half. You're going to go back and watch the tape and realize that many of their errors were self-inflicted.
Will come in on 3 for Cavallero. Dominic Cavallero. Jesse Bolton flicks it forward. And the timing is perfect. Lexi Garrity hauls it in. Patience, waited on the disc, read it masterfully, and Mixtape up 13-9.
The throw from Cavallero to Bolton that set up the assist was gorgeous. Cavallero knows he has the space. Bolton milks it, gains an extra 15 yards, and then nicely adjusted to by Garrity. Power position, gained his balance, cleanly set that pivot foot, no travel. And Garrity has her second goal. Mixtape closing in. It's funny how it works, Sean, because a year ago Seattle was the Silver City in the mixed division, in the women's division, and in the men's division, coming in second place here at the US Open. And while the women from Medellin, Colombia stole gold, Seattle Sockeye and Seattle Mixtape could still make it a pretty special weekend for Seattle.
Mix 6 of 8 on break chances in this game. Dragon thrust, mere 3 of 11. Mextra laser beams it forward just beyond the stretch, and an incompletion turnover as she tried to hit Claire Oakley.
I like the shot. We saw her complete it before. This one did not work out.
On the fore side, Seattle working their way downfield. There's the around swing as they get it back to Ikeda, Casey Ikeda. Hammer toss across the field. El Salam, the recipient. Salam with some space, settles into the center. Abramovich, who has a goal in this game. Dumps it back to Ikeda. Ikeda works it to El Salam. Ikeda cutting right back on the give and go. 3 yards out. They'll flip it across the way. El Salam knows it's showtime. Flips it casually. And Khalif with a couple of late goals. Mixtape 1 point away from wrapping up this championship.
Khalif's nickname might as well be Showtime. That's the way he plays. And Casey Ikeda, longtime Bay Area mixed player, successful with Polar Bears and Blackbird. And just a fantastic two-man game, working it down the field, going every other. Khalif El Salam helping to lead his team on a 4-0 run late in the second half.
When you look at this mixed division and a chance to put it in the national spotlight, let's talk about how special it is when you see the talents of the men and women merge and put on the show that we've seen here tonight. Ultimate, one of those rare sports where both can showcase on the same competitive playing field.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen the great layout from Bird Abbott, Erica Bacon, Sarah Mextroth making things happen along with Ikeda and El Salam. Typically, at the end of every mixed season, the team that utilizes their women best, not to say they don't utilize their men, but the team that congeals the genders together best is usually the one that wins. And it's a challenge, especially for players who are used to playing single gender ultimate. A lot of adjustments you need to make.
Off the traditional clap catches, Brett Sullivan gets it back over to Jacob Lean, and a pick is called.
Has to be disappointing for Dragon Thrust. They were so excited to be in this game in their hometown, and yet the US Open curse continues. They just they put it together in the fall, and they're always in the mix in the summer.
Program that has won 3 straight club championships from 13 through 15. They won a World Ultimate Club Championship in
This all goes back to
2014.
where it was when the pick was called. No, it's when the pick was called. So you actually gained seconds. So coming in.
And as Evan alluded, this has been
coming in through.
the championship
Coming in through.
that has eluded them. They were hoping for their first U.S. Open title. And now it's going to take a ferocious rally down the stretch to pull it off.
And this has definitely been the most meaningful U.S. Open. An event that began in 2012, so it's in year 6. The fact that it happened a month later this year than it did in past years, typically around 4th of July weekend, and perhaps even more so, that we're leading into Worlds, and it's on U.S. soil in Cincinnati 2018. Because of that, so many international teams wanted to come to learn what they would have to do, what it would take to beat the best. In the women's division, the women from Colombia have shown they have what it takes. A lot of close games in the men's and mixed division from teams from Japan and Great Britain and Germany and Italy. Obviously, no one had the same success that the Colombians did.
Score for Dragon Thrust. Jess Howler, 5th-year player for Minneapolis. On the soft throw, the soft backhand, the touch.
Good
by
to see.
Drescher.
Good to see Jess Howler back. She was on the verge of tearing her ACL. Did not play last season because of the injury. About a year and a half of physical therapy, she says, prevented her from needing surgery. And Jake Henderson said she's really been crushing it this year, getting tons of blocks. They're going to need a ton of blocks down the stretch. They need to score 5 in a row.
Four women, 3 men for Seattle. Take a look at that defensive line for Dragon Thrust. Lean and Bacon, Banoka. There's the offensive line for Seattle. Abramovich, Cavallero, Hauser, Cam Bailey. You have Burton on the field. Mixtape looking for the championship.
Mark Burton always has a flair for the dramatic. He wants to be the guy that takes that last shot. He will be involved in this point, I guarantee it.
Cavallero as they go with the side stack along the near side. Burton with the disc. On the mark, Burton looking. Bailey comes back to it. They dump it off to Cavallero.
Clutch reset by Bailey and a good break from Burton because the stall count was rising and everybody was cutting deep. Everybody wanted to be the hero.
Bailey has played a whale of a second half defensively, able to scoot it ahead safely to Burton. Seattle taking a shot on the backhand, looking for the championship point, and there it is, Mixtape with Dominique Cavallero, and Seattle captures the mixed division title. Seattle Mixtape 15, Dragon Thrust 10. Seattle, your 2017 U.S. Ultimate champs. Time now for the Discraft play of the game, brought to you by Discraft. It's the championship point for Mixtape.
Claire Revere, a majestic and beautiful backhand to Dom Cavallero to close it out. Enough silver for Seattle. They get gold. Now, this is not the gold they want, but it is a great first step for Mixtape. They're playing for Sarasota in the fall, but they've got the Pro Championships Labor Day weekend on their home turf, and they've got a great opportunity to have a great year heading towards Sarasota in October.
That's the story from Blaine, Minnesota. For Evan Lepler, Sean Kinney saying so long from the National Sports Center. Mixtape over Minneapolis 15-10. All games airing on the ESPN networks or streaming live on the ESPN app, or to watch the entire game, log on to the watchespn.com or the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN. Coming up next, Freehold, New Jersey, Puerto Rico at the Max Bear Park in Livermore.